So today we have the head coach of the U.S. men's national team, Jurgen Klinsmann, and Captain Clint Dempsey. If you do have a question, once we hear from Jurgen, if you could please raise your hand. We have wireless microphones, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. At this point, I'd like to introduce the head coach of the U.S. men's national team, Jurgen Klinsmann, to hear your thoughts on tomorrow night's match against Costa Rica.
Hello everybody. Such a nice venue here. Obviously, we can't wait. We can't wait to play that game because it's been a couple of long weeks, since the game in Honduras. And always when you have a negative result, you want to fix that as soon as possible with a positive result. So we are we're really looking forward to the match. We're very confident. Team in a very good spirit. Everybody in a good mood, and knowing it's going to be a lot of work, But it's World Cup qualifying time, and that's where, you got to show character, you got to show everything you have, and we are thrilled. Game was sold out in 1 hour here in Denver. How the people really are behind us, and we're looking forward to enjoy that crowd and get the first 3 points.
Thanks, Jurgen. I should also mention that tomorrow night we debut the new Nike Centennial Match Kit in honor of the 100-year anniversary of U.S. soccer. If you have a question, if you could raise your hand, please. Sorry, Grant, and then Jamie.
Jurgen, there was a lot of talk this week about this story in the Sporting News in which several unnamed players were critical. I wanted to give you a chance to respond publicly and just get your thoughts on it.
Well, I responded already to it. First of all, what does it mean, anonymous quotes, rumors here? This is just part of our environment, journalists and people, they can say whatever they feel, whatever they think, whatever they believe, which is important. I think it's a great sign. All the debates are going on in soccer now in this country. I think you're all part of it, we are part of it. It shows you that people care. It shows you that people really question things, that people maybe get worried here about. We lost one game in Honduras, 1 out of 10 in that moment. And you take that as a positive sign, Now, I always said that we are a team in transition. I always said between 2 cycles, there's a lot of work for the coaches and for the team as well. So that being said, it's normal that we have to move players out of comfort zones. We have to introduce them to different methods because we want to make them better at the end of the day. If we do it exactly the same way everything was done before, we are not improving. It's our job to get these guys to another level, and it's only being done by introducing different methods. So no, I don't have any problems with that. Obviously, I prefer if people have any type of problems, like you have a problem with me, come to me and talk to me about it, and then so-called anonymous quotes where you don't know who actually said it. Is it a player? Is it an agent? Is it whoever? Is it a fan or whatever? But it doesn't distract us at all from what we're here for. Our focus is purely Costa Rica, and hopefully after the 3 points tomorrow night in this beautiful venue, we want to go to Mexico and give them a real game. This is what we're doing right now, so therefore, no problem.
Just actually wanted to follow up with that. Clint, did you say anything as the captain to the members of the team regarding that article and the fallout from it?
Yeah, we haven't, I haven't addressed it with the team. The way I look at it, the most important thing, like what Jurgen said, is the game. And focusing on that match and making sure you get the 3 points, making sure we put ourselves in a good position in the table, and getting confidence from a good result that we can go on a good run of form, and not be waiting, towards the end, relying on other teams to try to do us favors, kind of putting destiny in our own hands. I think it's more important to talk about, the importance of every game and the importance of trying to qualify for a World Cup. We don't want to be the team that doesn't qualify, So that's where our focus is. I think that's more about what we're going to talk about, and making sure that we have that fighting spirit, we have that, that effort, that never say die attitude, and that we're taking these games to our opponents and, we're getting the right results.
Stephen.
Jurgen, where do things stand with Breck Shea, his foot, and his possibility of playing the next couple games?
Well, Bragg is trying really hard to get into a rhythm, and therefore we evaluate that with every session, and you can here and there see that he's not played always full games, so we keep that in mind. But it's already great that he's here, that he's back being part of that team, and after his switch obviously from Dallas to Stoke, and it's great to have him here.
Simon.
Jurgen, Bruce Arena said in some comments yesterday that he felt the team should be made up of Americans, as he put it, and he was questioning selecting players who were born outside of the States. How do you feel about that kind of criticism, and also the suggestion from some people that there's been a difficulty integrating the German-born players into the team?
Well, I don't look at it as a criticism. It's just his opinion. That's totally cool. It's totally cool with me. I think the world is changing, and it's a global game. I believe that Americans are Americans, no matter if they grow up in Japan and South Africa or in Buenos Aires. Our job is to identify the best talents with American passports and see if they are good enough to come into that elite group. By finding those answers, the only way to do that is actually inviting them in and see how they do in our environment and give them the opportunity. It's different times now. I mean, we have a lot of kids breaking through in different countries based on where all the Americans spread out in the world. Because of that, suddenly we see talents in South America or in Europe, wherever, and we want to evaluate them and we want to connect them. For me personally, America is a melting pot, but not only within the U.S. here, it's a global melting pot, So if you kind of look at them differently because they grew up maybe in Germany or in England or in Mexico than if they grow up here in the U.S., I mean, most of our guys play all in Europe, 80%, 75, 80%, Do you look at them now differently because they play in Europe? I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we don't lose the next Giuseppe Rossi, who grew up in New Jersey but plays now for Italy. Would he look good in our jersey, especially the 100 years anniversary jersey? I think so. I think so. So we want to evaluate those kids. We want to see, how they're doing, if they have the qualities for this team, but also if they have the 1,000% commitment that we ask from them, to do all that extra work that you have to do when you're a U.S. national team player. That means, to be always here when it counts, to be always, available when you got to travel around the world, to deal with jet lags, to deal with different climate zones, to deal with all that stuff that these guys have to deal with. By running them through the program, we will figure that out. At the end of the day, I'm going to decide which 23 will go down to Brazil, which 23 are the hungriest, most dedicated, and best players that we have. We will decide as coaches, who fits the puzzle the best, who builds the best chemistry. An integration process with bringing new players in always takes time. It's not happening overnight, especially maybe if it's 3, 4, 5 more players than just one at a time. But in those kind of 4 years between 2 cycles, this is a time frame that you have to use. Once we are in spring next year and after a successful qualifying campaign, then that process has to be done, because then we can't try things out anymore. Then we have to really get this group together and make sure that everybody is on the same page. But I look at it as a global picture. Bruce looks at it in a different way, and I totally respect that.
Francisco.
Good morning, Ken. Good morning, Coach. For the first time in many years, there's a U.S. national team that goes against Costa Rica and going to Azteca Stadium without what we used to see, the backbone, Tim Howard, a Bocanegra, and a Landon Donovan. As Tim Howard was because of an injury, and I was just wondering if, assuming that nobody's indispensable, are the fact that you don't bring in Bocanegra nor Donovan to these particular crucial matches on the qualifying stage, is it something, a matter of choice? And if so, what is your logic behind taking out those key players, at least traditional key players for the U.S. national team?
It's very simple. We believe that the group that is here has absolutely quality to beat Costa Rica and to get a positive result in Mexico as well. I think, obviously Tim Howard is a very important guy for our team, but he's not there. I think Brett Guzan, as a starting goalkeeper at Aston Villa, is doing extremely well, played World Cup qualifiers before, and is able to stand his man. I think the backbone of this team coming through, again, talking about the transition between cycles, with Clint, with a Michael Bradley, a Jermaine Jones, with experienced players like Clarence Goodson and Hercules Gomez, other ones, we are very well off. We're good. Players that are not here, there are reasons for that, why they are not here. Some don't play at all. Some don't even train. and a lot of them are injured, which is the way it is. I mean, you look back, a year from now, we went into Italy, and you look at the team that went actually into Italy and got the job done, a lot of the guys were missing, I mean, we were pulling them from all over the place just to have 16, 18 guys on the roster in Italy. So it's absolutely no problem. The guys that are here, they have experience, they are hungry, and they are ready for Costa Rica, and we are absolutely positive about the game tomorrow night.
Ivan.
Coach, would you like to know who said those things about your training methods?
I don't know. I mean, it really doesn't bother me that much. It's more about, the fact that you always would like, if it's really true, which is obviously still a rumor, because if you say an anonymous source is, then you got to name it. Then you rather prefer as a coach or as an individual, no matter who you are, that people talk to you directly if they have something to complain about. As simple as that.
It's not a distraction for you?
No. Because I'm sure that if we are maybe 50 people here, we have 50 different opinions of how the team should be fielded tomorrow night.
We'll go to the middle here.
Jurgen, can you talk a little bit, and maybe Clint too, about the environment that you're going to face tomorrow in terms of how you expect altitude and cold weather to affect both you and Costa Rica?
Want to go ahead?
Yeah. I think, like Jurgen said earlier, we have 75, 80% players who play in Europe. So in terms of dealing with the cold, it's something that we're used to. The thing that would be different to trying to adjust, try to acclimate to, would be the altitude. But the national team's done a good job of getting the players in as soon as possible and getting the training sessions and doing the right things possible to make sure that come game time, they will be ready to go. So for that, I think that's a huge advantage for us. As far as what the Costa Rica players have to deal with, I know they have some players who play in Europe, so they'll be used to it as well as far as the cold. But I think, players who are used to the warm weather and trying to come here and deal with that, well then, yeah, I mean, it may, benefit us in that aspect as it probably benefited Honduras, when we played in the game at their place. You had players coming from when it was snowing to all of a sudden, 90 degrees. So, yeah, hopefully we can use it to our advantage. More importantly, the crowd to our advantage, having that 12th man and being able to push us on, because that's something that's always, helped us during qualifying and give us that, that push to get the job done.
Just a point of information, more than 2,000 American Outlaws supporters will be at the game tomorrow night, the most we've ever had. They'll fill 4 sections behind one of the goals.
Thanks. Coach, and Clint, feel free as well. In the last month or so, what did the team learn from the Honduras match in February, and where do you see the improvements that have come since then?
Well, definitely you always learn more from a defeat than from a win, so you analyze it and you find the reasons why we couldn't adjust so quickly to the climate, to the field conditions with just 2.5 days prior to the game coming in. And obviously you want to adjust things also based on the player material that you have at your disposal, which is again a completely new picture right now than it was 5-6 weeks ago. So you discuss that, and the challenge for national team coaches is obviously always, once the game is over, not take the game in Honduras, Next day, everybody's on another flight to wherever they play. So it's not that you can have 2 days later a nice meeting and say, hey guys, this we did really well, and this we had some issues here. So you wrap it up real quick when the players come in. Now you talk about it, but then obviously you have to move on. And the coaching staff knows exactly why things didn't work out the way we wanted it to work out, and we definitely will do things, differently towards the Costa Rica game.
Clint, here. You were part of the team, the process for Germany and also for South Africa. Can you talk a little about these changes, these new methods Jurgen has been employing, and how does that work for you, and especially how does you think work for the other players in the team?
Yeah, I think it's important that you keep moving forward as a country. You try to be the best that you can be and get to the levels that you want to get and try to do something special. So you have to think outside the box. You have to try new methods. You have to try new players, because a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes, the players that you try to qualify with are not necessarily the players who are going to be in the World Cup that you play with if you do qualify. So you have to try players, sink or swim. I was lucky enough that, when I went to MLS playing under Steve Nicol, that he gave me the opportunity when I was a rookie to get significant minutes which allowed me to break into the national team. So I think you have to try new things and, to see, what new strength can you add to the team and build upon what you already had. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Ivis.
Jurgen, you've made mention that this is a must-win game. I know it's only been one game into the qualifying, into the Hex, but is there pressure on you specifically? Do you feel if you guys lose this game that there'll be pressure on you, or do you see your job more as kind of a longer-term thing, and it's not going to come down to 1 or 2 results in these next few games?
No, I mean, home games, as we always say, are must-wins. You want to make sure you get the 3 points in every home game and then get your points on the road as well. Expectations, or in your sense, pressure is always there. That's what you live with. It's just normal. And the more expectations and the more pressure is there, the more people care about it. And I think this is great. I have no problem with that at all. I know it's going to be a difficult qualifying campaign. I know they're going to face problems with injuries, with cancellations, with whatever, climate zones or whatever it is. But that's important to go through that and to learn to adjust to whatever environment you face then at the end of the day. I think it's fascinating. I think, the opportunity now is there tomorrow night to correct the result in Honduras from a couple of weeks ago, get ourselves on the right track, and get the points in order to make hopefully everybody happy. But on the other side, I'm not here to make everybody happy. Then I actually have the wrong job. I'm here to kind of challenge people. I'm here to kind of improve people. By doing that, I might move out some people, maybe you as well, out of your comfort zones. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I keep doing, because I want to make it better. Taking some risks on the road, taking some negative results on the road, that happens. But I'm sure by doing that, we can only get to another level. It's all good with me.
And just a point of information, Ivis, in 3 of the last World Cup qualifying cycles, it's taken until match day 9 of 10 for the U.S. team to qualify. Right behind you, Roger.
Jurgen, can you talk a little bit about the captain decision? In England, it's a big deal, the captain of the national team. In Italy, it's not such a big deal. How big a deal is it for you, and what were you looking for?
Well, for us, it is a big deal too. I mean, Clint, and then we have Tim Howard there. We have a very experienced Michael Bradley already at a young age. You want to pass on, responsibility to those guys. So the captaincy, for Clint is big. It gives him a sense of, becoming closer connected to the head coach, discussing things, talking about certain strategies, about certain things you want to do, understanding, how important it is to build an entire group, an entire environment towards a huge World Cup. So it is big in Germany. I think it's also big in England. I think it's also actually big in Italy, and I played there for quite a while. So it is something that fills you with pride. I've been captain of Germany for many years, and makes you a bit more understand many things off the field than if you just only focus on things on the field. So it's a big role.
Peter.
Yeah, Jurgen, most of your practices up to now have been open. You've chosen to close these two practices. Any particular reason?
Yeah, because we don't want to give out the lineup right away to Costa Rica. We want them to wait a little bit and you guys as well, until tomorrow night. So that's basically the reason that we can do closed-door tactical sessions and automize certain things that we want to automize. We definitely will open it up again before all the friendly games this year, probably also before the Gold Cup games, but it's World Cup qualifying time, and we have only a few sessions with these guys, and I just can make now one session for everybody to watch when you want to do some stuff that is really for us to keep inside.
So it's about the higher stakes then?
Yeah, you can say that, yeah.
Nick.
Jurgen, DeMarcus is obviously one of your more versatile players and the guy that's back in the camp. How do you envision using him Friday night? And is he an option at left back if necessary?
Oh, he's an option everywhere. I mean, DeMarcus Memphis, he's an outstanding character. You know, we call him right now 97, because he's at 97. You know, he's always there when you need him. He's always there for the team. He's a pure giver to the program. You know, and he's versatile. I mean, he can play midfield, he can play left back if you want him to play left back, he can play, all over the place. And he's been always part of our picture, he's been always part of our bigger group, Sometimes it doesn't match, then he's not in. Next time it matches, he's back in. And he's just an outstanding character, to say the least, really. And very enjoyable within the group.
Doug.
Jurgen, what can you tell us about the game plan tomorrow, and how important is it going to be for you guys to get off to a good start and get the first goal?
Well, we'd like to get, obviously a high tempo. We try to keep the rhythm going, and move forward quickly if possible. Obviously, you want to get the crowd behind you. You want to get the crowd behind you to kind of create more energy and create chances for Clint and Josie to finish things up, and push the envelope from the beginning on. So, again, going back to a must-win situation at home games, we'll deal with that, and the only way to do that is, attack and score goals.
We'll do one more. Jerry.
Jurgen, perception of MLS around the world is not considered to be as high as many of the European leagues. And on this game, which is a must-win game, as you stated over and over again, you're going to have to rely on MLS players more than you've had to ever before. Can you just make a comment about, their level of play and how this might not be as an extreme measure as many people are thinking?
Well, I think, it just mirrors you the improvement of MLS overall. I mean, we're all thrilled, even the players in Europe are thrilled that, MLS is getting better year by year. The infrastructure is getting more and more professional. I mean, outstanding stadiums throughout the countries. If you look at the venues that we chose for the next 4 home games then after Denver, it speaks for MLS itself, and the players improve. Every year they play more games, more difficult competitions. If it's CONCACAF Champions League, for example, all these things, they add to it, so the more rhythm they get, the more experience they get, the better their development, so it's a compliment to MLS. The more players you can pick out of MLS, and therefore I think, as an entire group, we're on the right path. Well, I think, it's wrong, because if you compare league by league, even if you go into Europe, there are different levels of leagues, but I think that would be fair. I think, every league has its own charisma, its own character, and its own difficulties. MLS is very challenging, and Clinty knows it, traveling schedule, going east, west, south, north, and, going up to Canada, whatever. If you play in Honduras or in Costa Rica, that's challenging as well. I mean, you play in Europe, as he does and other guys do. So every country has its own characteristics, you know. So you can't necessarily just compare and say, you know, the top league in the world is the Premier League or the Bundesliga or the Spanish league. You know, if you kind of put them next to each other, you can do that maybe on a commercial base. It's easier to measure. On the purely technical side of it, it's difficult. You know, then you would say right now that the Premier League is falling behind based on the Champions League results. But is that really true? Next year, maybe you have totally different results again in the Champions League. You know, there was one call that got Manchester United out of the competition and stuff like that. So it's difficult to compare those leagues.